The Nintendo Switch 2 is allegedly in the wild. We're going to look at an article here in a second that looks like the Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits have been sent out to developers. This actually lines up with what we had heard previously about rumors about the next Nintendo Switch landing late 2024, like fourth quarter holiday time. That puts it about 18 months out from right now, which is typically pretty much par for the course. Dev kits typically it's sent out 1 year to about 18 months ahead of time of when the actual release of the systems hit. We saw that with previous systems. Now, we also covered this on Reforge Rundown. That's my other channel where we upload very quick rundown of, gaming news. We also put my monologues there from the daily talk shows, and I did a video over there combing over a shareholders Q&A session where they were saying there's going to be a seamless transition between the current Nintendo Switch and the next one, basically enabling you to bring your account with you. Now, what we don't know is, will that bring backwards compatibility? Am I going to be able to bring Breath of the Wild with me or Tears of the Kingdom? And obviously related to that question is, will there be a significant performance boost on the Nintendo Switch 2? Rumors that they're going to try to run a chipset that will enable them to do the DLSS. We recently heard from Bobby Kotick that the next Switch will basically be at the power of a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, which is a nice jump from the current Nintendo Switch, but that's obviously not going to be a next-gen system. I've even theorized in the past that I don't think we'll ever see a next-gen Nintendo Switch. That's not their focus, especially if they're keeping things in the realm of a dockable mobile gaming device. You just aren't going to be able to get that power in a good price range for the normal or the average consumer. Their target audience is not going to want to drop heavy amounts of money on something that's very powerful, and then that tends to drive your battery life down. The other thing to consider with backwards compatibility is we have Super Mario Bros. Wonder coming. We have Super Mario RPG Remake coming. Those games look phenomenal. I'm very excited about both. I actually recently said the only turn-based game I ever remember enjoying was Super Mario RPG, and then like the next day they announced the remake. So you wouldn't want people buying those games and sort of doubting, oh, is everything coming with me? So the assumption, I think, that the seamless transition in your account coming over would be that there would offer a backwards compatibility, or you bring your digital library with you. There's something that was sort of stressed in that recent Phil Spencer interview. He talked about, like, we lost that worst generation to lose because that's when everybody built their digital library, and a digital gaming library continuity is very important. I think that's why we saw backwards compatibility so stressed by Xbox this recent go around in their marketing. And that's been something that the other platform, PlayStation, has been trying to work on, giving you access to those old games, even if you just have to stream them. So now we're seeing, according to xfire.com, the Metroid Dread developer already has the Nintendo Switch successor. So Mercury Steam's close relationship with Nintendo, especially after the success of Metroid Dread, gives this leak a lot of credibility. So let's take a look at what is being claimed. Are we about to get news about the successor to the renowned Nintendo Switch? If we believe one infamous leaker, Nash Weedle, an unnamed Spain-based video game developer already has their hand on the still unnamed console. And this could potentially mean that something's going to be happening with Metroid as well. If they want to have some good launch titles for the Nintendo Switch 2, obviously that's not going to be Zelda, because Tears of the Kingdom just came out. Now, they could do something with a DLC or an enhanced edition or something like that with Tears of the Kingdom, but they're also missing out on the new Mario game. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is this year, and the Super Mario RPG Remake wouldn't necessarily be a big driver, but Metroid could be a good target for that launch title, especially with the success of Metroid Dread, and when it came out, may line up with another game being able to land as a launch title. So let's see what we have here. Weedle, known for his leaks of Metroid Dread before its official announcement 3 years ago, has dropped an interesting bit of information once again. So not only is the leaker reliable, but you can see again, the official announcement was 3 years ago. Metroid Dread came out shortly after that. It wasn't a super long window of time. So that would put, if they did launch a game along with the Nintendo Switch 2 late next year, that would be a short dev window. That'd be, less than 4 years. That'd be roughly 3. So unless they knew or they're planning something with Metroid Dread. Maybe there's going to be some sort of update, like free updates to games like we saw on the PS5. If you got God of War 2018 as an example, you got a free update. There was a 4K checkerboard update, 60 frames per second. Maybe that's why this developer is getting the dev kit early, so they can plan to do something and give people sort of that reason to buy the new device. According to Weedle, a Spanish game development studio has received a dev kit for the Nintendo Switch successor. While he hasn't directly named the studio, avid gaming enthusiasts believe it to be Mercury Steam, the Madrid-based team that developed Metroid Dread. The theory adds up when considering Nintendo's trust in Mercury Steam after the critical sales and success of Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread also won a Game Award. So here you can see the leak. The tweet that is not in English, it's in Spanish. So you'd have to we could click on this and translate it and see exactly what is being stated. The Switch 2 development kit has arrived in Spain. That a Spanish study already has the kit in the face of Nintendo's policy of secrecy is a boost in their relations and indicates that we are in the last phases prior to the presentation of the console. So very exciting that we're probably going to see and hear about it very, very soon. And that, there's already teams with it in hand. Again, Nintendo secrecy pointing to some pretty heavy trust of the team that got it. The delivery of the dev kit to a developer is a critical marker in the life cycle of a new console. It symbolizes that the console is in its last stages of development and games are being prepared for its launch. The secrecy surrounding the Spanish studio receiving the dev kit has brought forward conjectures that Nintendo is trying to keep the development of its next console under wraps. They are. I think this is always a challenge. This is going to be a challenge with the PS5 Pro that we all but know is coming thanks to Tom Henderson. You got to be very careful, because when you have a device that is doing incredibly well and demand is high and you're making a profit per sale, the current Nintendo Switch model, the demand is high, saturation's incredible, and they make profit per unit. You do not want to disrupt that too early. If you start talking right now about a Nintendo Switch 2, let's say they push out a Direct, but it doesn't come out until late next year, it causes all kind of marketing funnel confusion. Should you wait and not buy Super Mario Wonder? First-party titles for Nintendo tend to sell incredibly well, and hurting those sales would be counterproductive by talking about a Nintendo Switch 2 way too early. I would hazard a guess that we don't hear about this officially until the summer of 2024. The same is going to go for the PS5 Pro. Holiday of 2024 is shaping up to be pretty good if we get an updated Switch as well as a PS5 Pro. And somewhere in the mix, we're going to be getting the PlayStation Q Lite, the handheld device that's going to allow you to play your games on your PS5 remotely. So this is probably the window, and they don't want to hurt their sales and the demand currently of their product. So they will keep this very quiet. It'll be very secret. The fact that we're getting any kind of leaks and any kind of info is actually pretty incredible with the way that Nintendo typically handles their property. Much like its predecessors, Nintendo is again speculated to be playing around with controllers, keeping the original design of the console a secret. And I think that's actually going to be where we see a big switch for, no pun intended, for the Switch. I do think the Joy-Cons were so innovative and they're multi-purpose. I love how you can take them off, turn them to the side, and they're like a little Nintendo controller. I do think form factor could be a consideration, maybe a slightly bigger joystick, maybe more of a concave design. They were hard to use at length. I felt like they were kind of hard on the thumbs, hard on anybody with large hands. I don't even have big hands, and I found them a little bit difficult to use. I definitely prefer the Nintendo Switch Pro controller over the Joy-Con, so that could be one really good room for them to iterate and work on maybe a slightly bigger or better controller. The Joy-Cons were fantastic, but I do think some of the feedback on them was that they were, a little too small and kind of hard to use. Adding fuel to the speculation fire, a Spanish YouTuber behind the games mentioned that the unknown Spanish studio is testing the dev kit with a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. This hints at Nintendo's high-stakes plan to launch the Switch 2 with an innovatively designed controller that might be more than a slightly improved version of the current Joy-Cons. What this could mean is that the dev kit's not even coming with the controller. They don't want to give that out. They don't want that out in the wild. They're protecting that IP. That's something Nintendo has been amazing at. Innovation within the realm of consoles has started with Nintendo so many times. They were the first to do a thumb joystick on the Nintendo 64. They were the first to really pioneer and get widespread motion controls with the Nintendo Wii. And then the Nintendo Switch as a device is incredibly first. I mean, if you think about it, nobody did this. Nobody thought this was going to be good. Bobby Kotick undersold this. He thought, no, we don't want to even do anything with that. It's not strong enough. And this thing just took over. And this is something that always I think Nintendo should be given credit for. So likely we're going to see similar upticks in innovation with controllers once again with the Nintendo Switch 2. While the excitement around the successor is palpable, it's essential to keep a balanced perspective. Historically, dev kits have been sent out long before the release of the console. Remember, PlayStation 5 dev kits started appearing in leaked images over a year before the PS5 launch. Similarly, rumors about games being developed for a Nintendo Switch 4K console were around as early as September of 2021. Right, and I think the thing to remember here, too, is it's typically within the 18 to 24-month window. Sometimes it's about a year when we see these dev kits going out. It depends on the relationship with the company. It depends on how much they want to trust you with their IP, how much they want to trust you with their patents and their copyrights, because people getting their hands on your dev kit is a pretty sensitive thing. And if this is one of the more trusted companies, getting it roughly, if estimations are correct, and this is landing fourth quarter 2024, and this is one of the more trusted companies, then they're getting it about 18 months out. And that would mean over the next 6 months, we might start hearing more whispers of other companies getting the Switch 2 dev kits as that sort of circle of trust starts to expand out. The closer you get to your announcement, you can start to do that. Adding a dash of credibility to Weedle's claims, Nintendo's president Shutaro Furukawa has already partaken in a Q&A session to guide users on how to transition smoothly to the unannounced console. We recapped that at the beginning. Furthermore, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick mentioned active discussions with Nintendo about its next-gen console, which he presumes will roughly be as powerful as a PS4 and an Xbox One. I really don't think they liked that headline. They probably didn't want that being said, that, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be as strong as the previous generation of consoles. Again, for Nintendo Switch users, that's a big bump, okay? For me personally, I was hoping for maybe a slightly stronger bump, maybe with DLSS, if those rumors are to be believed. It could mimic roughly the power of the Xbox Series S, and I think if you imagine running something like Tears of the Kingdom on an Xbox Series S, it would probably run quite well. Graphics are not that demanding. The art style and being able to get 60 frames per second would be the big focus that many of us are hoping to see. If you're going to jump up to a new Switch, my hope would be you're not just doing it for new controller peripherals or new innovation with respect to controllers. I would want that to be additive. I would want foundationally the reason to switch to the Nintendo Switch 2 would be for power, so that the big games that they're making could stay in that art style. They don't have to push high fidelity graphics and lighting systems and any of that. You can keep making games, in my estimation, you can keep making games at the graphical fidelity of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but just give me better performance. I think that's a reasonable expectation as more and more people game on monitors and TVs with higher refresh rates and larger resolution thresholds. I think it's reasonable to expect games to run a bit better than the way that Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild currently runs. It's acceptable because it's a portable device, but you have to remember, this thing came out in 2017. Things have changed very rapidly, even to the point now that when Redfall didn't have 30 FPS and Gotham Knights didn't have 30 FPS, even the news about Starfield hasn't been received well by the general gaming public. Many people feel that rising tide of min specs and min performance continues to go up, and people want a little bit more. And so my hope would be that would be one of the primary drivers for this new device. All this comes just weeks after Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot mentioned that Nintendo warned it about releasing Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope for the Nintendo Switch instead of holding out for the Nintendo's next console. So it seems like there's that window again. If you're telling somebody maybe consider hold out and wait, That again points at 2024. I don't think you would say that to somebody if it was 2 years. If it's just next year, I could see saying, hey, you might want to wait for our next console. But if you're telling somebody, oh yeah, you're going to want to wait until 2025, again, I would imagine this thing would want to release holiday. I think that's a good window of time for a device like this. You're going to be demand through the roof. You're going to have families trying to get it. So let's see what they say about that. Looking at the bigger picture, we know very little about the next-gen Nintendo console. However, rumors suggest it could come anytime between 2024 and 2025. The last rumors I read had it slated for Q4 2024, holiday 2024. Something tells us that Nintendo will try to squeeze more out of the Nintendo Switch, which has been a huge success over the course of its lifetime, bolstered in recent years with the release of this Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, among others. So that concludes their coverage. Again, my thoughts are here. I want to see two big things. One thing I know we can count on, which is innovation with the peripherals, with the accessories, with the controllers. We know Nintendo likes to push that forward. They got a lot of capital out of just those Joy-Cons being so small and yet so versatile and so useful. But I really want to see that performance jump. It doesn't have to be next gen. I don't need 4K. I don't even really need 1440. I just would like to see 60 FPS be possible. Let us get slightly more. At the very least, have it be docked and maybe get a little bit more power out of whatever the docking station is. That would be phenomenal to be able to get a performance boost. I know the tech is not necessarily there yet in some respects, but I could definitely see that happening. I would also like to be able to turn off the resolution bump, because whenever you have it currently, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and you're mobile, you're undocked, it runs at a lower resolution, so you tend to get better and more consistent frames per second. Those dips aren't as extreme, they're a little bit more stable, but once you dock it, it raises the resolution, which affects performance, and it affects the frames per second. So, as always, if you like this video and you want to continue the conversation, these videos typically roll over into a members only stream where we debrief and talk, so consider clicking that join button. It supports me directly. $5 a month gets you into all that extra content. We pretty much do that every day of the week. As always, at the very least, hit subscribe, hit the bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.